Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 10th of January. So let's start off looking at the potential news stories that are going to affect our trading today. And here we go, let's just bring the news events in, and there's nothing. Actually, there's a Japanese bank holiday, really not going to affect too much at all. As we go into the London session, aside of that, as I say, really nothing. There may be some very low-key data coming out, but nothing that should affect us too much in terms of impact. We do tomorrow have Fed chairs, Powell speaking at 3 o'clock. The rest of the week, after non-farm payrolls, it is pretty quiet, and well, whether the market would digest the non-farm payrolls a little bit more, and I don't think we'll see a great deal come from that. So it leaves us with quite a thin market really in terms of news. So let's get rid of that for a moment. I mean, overnight news-wise, I've noticed Goldman Sachs have, I say overnight, maybe over the weekend, Goldman Sachs are now expecting 4 interest rate increases in the US, which may be digested, and something much more, something more may come from that, but it's got to be taken with a large pinch of salt in general. Anyway, let's have a look at the technicals as they're sitting at the moment. Euro dollar continues to trade in this range. On Friday, with after the news, it managed to pitch up a bit quite well actually. It pushed up quite nicely, broke out my short-term triangle, but it really just sits in this hell of a mess that's running at the moment. One thing I'm sort of picking up on this chart, and it's very, as I say, it's very vague really. I mean, you come back to the dailies, it's just a chop, but there's slightly higher lows, higher highs coming through here. We've done it just around this area here, but the higher low in and popped in a new high from near term. Shows up a little easier on the hourlies. Where to today? Well, as I'm looking at this at the moment, everything's a bit, I'm not so sure why those pivots are quite so pinched. It may be that I've got the wrong setting on them. Let me just adjust the setting. Let's just switch that to a daily. Here we go. That's close to where they should be. Put them on daily bar as opposed to the Sunday's bar. And you can see it's through its weekly pivot, daily pivot. They're both below at the moment. Technically, that's weak. On the weaker side, if we start seeing it break down, maybe through the 34, we could see the lows challenged again. Certainly the S1 there at 13.12. But it's a difficult market to identify in terms of where it's going to go. The pound, on the other hand, it's been largely pushing upwards. It's a little bit easier in that respect. We've got the higher lows coming through all the way through here. Last week pushing through higher highs. We just chipping into the double top territory. Not managed to push out, but it's consolidating around that. If we can get a wiggle on this morning, we could see a break of that and maybe more upside, but just bear in mind it might just spike through it, catch a few orders, and come back towards its weekly pivot. So just be very wary. I'm always a bit wary of when you've got this sort of action going on, particularly on a Monday morning. As I said, if it does spike through and then pulls back, we'll just watch out for the daily pivot below, and then maybe back towards the weekly pivots. That's the pound. Yen. So yen really, well, it's trying to pull back on the dailies here. All it's doing is really at the moment is putting a bit of a flag in, and I'm sort of really just I've still got my trend line on from Friday there, looking for the break of the upside of that for a continuation. Quite simple really. At the moment though, it's putting lower highs, lower lows, but that's a flag for you when you're looking at it on the bigger picture. And the 4-hour picture, you can see it still quite structured relative to the shove up. So there we go. That's the yen, expecting weakness there. Aussie dollar. Well, Friday did okay. It's pushed up this morning through the Asian session and into its weekly pivots. in the meantime, whilst it's doing that, it's put a higher low in there. But overall, it's quite iffy at the moment. You go back. I mean, the dailies probably give it more credit than it's worth in a sense. But it was running south, and I'm still not sure if we'll see a reversal again today. The way it's sort of sitting there, coming down to the shorter time frames. Well, as I say, through the weekly pivot, untouched daily pivot below. Any sell-off this morning, well, that becomes a target. Well, 50 probably become a daily 60-minute 50 and 34 may come in as a target slightly earlier than that. But that's the Aussie dollar, Canadian dollar. Right, Canadian dollar, I'm a bit more bullish on. Well, the US dollar, Canadian dollar, I'm bearish on, and it's really sort of just continued. Canadian dollar starting to find some strength against the US dollar here, and working its way a little bit more south. Now again, we've got this sort of got to be a bit careful with this. Any early breakouts in this, it's doing it in the near term. At the moment, it's just breaking the lows there. Just got to be a tad careful. We may just be seeing orders taken out. So often it's worth waiting for a retracement and then a retest. So a pullback retest and see if it goes again. But we do have the daily and weekly pivots sitting there above, just to watch out for. A pull back to the daily may be quite nice, but if it just carries on going this morning, well, that's more in line with my expectations at the moment. Right, they're the majors. Let's have a quick look then at gold, commodity wise. Whoops, get the right button there. There we go. So gold, well, gold last week, yes, it recovered a bit on Friday. To me, in the nearer term here, it's still got the higher lows, higher highs to a degree, but when you look at it a little bit more focused, well, a break below 1782-ish area would confirm a lower high. We've already had this sort of lower high coming through late last week. It was pushing it through, as I say, caught a bit of a retrace towards the end of the week. There is potential for selling if it gets back to its weekly. It's certainly not as clear as it was, and well, if you could say it was ever clear, it's been in this sort of again range bound for quite some time. It's really sitting within that range. However I look at it and try and shape it up, it's quite a mess. Last week's really landed us with a bearish engulfing, and this week, well, we could see a follow through to the lows there. Okay, that's gold. Oil has been more bullish, and if you look at the dailies, Friday it pushed up. It didn't hold on to its gains on Friday, but weekly pivot and an early touch of weekly pivot could see a continuation. The only thing is, don't like the little pattern it's doing. I would like it to come down cleanly to that weekly pivot, as we saw last week. It bounced off the weekly and off it went. It might just not come back this week, we'll see. At the moment, fighting around its daily pivot there. If it can push through the 34, then it becomes for me more bullish. At the moment, it's certainly got those bullish points. If within this hour also, if we break above here, it will give us a higher low. So some positive viewpoints there on oil for now. Right, let's just change markets, change what we're looking at here, and just going to look at the cryptos over the weekend. Not a lot of action. It's got a little tiny bounce there on Saturday. Sunday's really very small movements, and again consolidating around a low. And whenever I look at this, I just come out to the weeklies and just think, well, it was sitting around those lows before, quite a consolidation. Has it got a chance of some more downside? Well, the answer of course is yes. We'll just see how it goes, but for now it's catching a shorter term bounce. Maybe it's got some more legs in there, but I have a feeling really the downside will prevail. Lower highs, lower lows through Ethereum here. So again, same sort of picture. Saturday was down day, Sunday was a little up day, but it's looking softer. Maybe closing out some of these trades as opposed to going short or whatever. But again, Ripple, similar picture as you look through these markets, largely a similar picture. Come back to FTM, and even that on Saturday sold off there. Bit of a bounce yesterday and pushing up a little bit, but it's lost its shine for now. Okay, let's change and look at the indices. What time is it? 8 o'clock. Good. We can have a look at the indices and they're open. But let's just have a look at the closed ones first. Bit of a bounce on the CSI. CSI 300 catching just a bit of a bounce at the moment, but still below that. Well, actually, it's closed slightly above the prior lows there, so maybe just gripping in. But like a lot of these markets, you're just range trading effectively. They're very difficult to work out the proper direction. Nikkei, well, it gapped up and closed down on the day, so not the most bullish of signals. FTSE this morning was, well, we ended up positive day on Friday, a little bullish harami arguably, and it pitched up a little way this morning, but slower. Friday for a lot of these other markets was a down day. We see the DAX sold off on Friday, trying to catch a bit more of a bounce this morning maybe. CAC, let's have a look again, same sort of scenario, selling on Friday. Let's have a look at the S&Ps. They give me a bit more clue to what's going on often. No, again, that was selling off on the expectation really of interest rate increases. It's sort of selling off at the moment, but I do wonder if there'll be a last hurrah on this S&P before we have maybe a bigger correction. But the likes of the Nasdaq here taking out the prior lows, well, sitting around prior lows, not quite taking them out there. Just looking that bit softer on the Nasdaq at this stage, and well, maybe leading things to a degree. Dow Jones again, all selling off. Just there is that sort of bit of optimism maybe for this morning, but that could soon disappear, and we could see these rolling over some more there. They do look a bit soft at the moment, although, as I didn't say it last week, I haven't checked today's figures, but there was some institutional money coming back into some of these indices, or at least a slowdown in the selling. So maybe there's more positivity coming through. Okay, that's pretty much it for me. I'm going to wish you a great day's trading. It's, as I said, it's quite difficult on some of these when you look at them, particularly likes of the euro. But we're just in that phase where it's chopping, and at some stage I'm sure we're going to get a decent push out there and get back into a trading pattern. But for now we're in chop. Just you've got to work on ranges. Have a great one. Bye for now.